Hello there and welcome back to another LEGO Star Wars video. And today we'll be taking a look at both my custom diorama that's built using the Throne Room Duel playset we got a few years back, and two of my custom mechs that I've built, one for Luke and one for the Emperor himself. But first, taking a look at this custom Throne Room Duel. The instructions to this will hopefully, by the time this video is out, be up on Rebrickable as always, as well as all my other dioramas that you can see on screen now. So be sure to check them out, and buying the instructions does support the channel, so I'd greatly appreciate it. But this diorama was built using only pieces from the playset. As I mentioned, the only part that isn't included in that is the exterior of this base here. Now, the instructions for the base are also up on Rebrickable for free if you want to download them and just build your own dioramas or have a border around some of your smaller playsets. But as was my main critique with the official LEGO diorama, I have included the two Royal Guards on the front. I think it just completes the set, and I know they're sort of floating in the middle here. They're not really on any platform, as I have added a black base to the bottom to create this sort of void underneath. But they look really cool, and it just finishes the set and would be a cool extra 2 minifigures to have gotten with the diorama. Now here I have recreated the scene where Luke draws his saber and Vader is defending the Emperor, and tried to include as much detail as possible, including the fact that if you spin the model round, not only do you have the Emperor's lightning bolts there, which besides looking cool from the back, can be taken off and added to a different scene, perhaps where the Emperor zaps Luke or where Vader lifts him above his head. This diorama really can display any scene, but also you can see it's nice and rounded off, and I've tried to include some snot techniques here. Of course, again, studs not on top, and you can see the window here isn't covered at all, so you can see straight through it. And it just finishes off the diorama real nice, rather than have an ugly back to it or a few parts that are just loose. And also can act as the exterior of this column of the second Death Star. And if you wanted to, you can build up on top of this. The diorama itself is slightly higher than a few of my last ones, but I feel it gets the scene replicated very well. And one of my favourite parts of this set are these little panels here, which of course in canon technicians are usually inside them, and it's where anyone wants to contact the Emperor, there'll be a technician or an Imperial worker in there. He'll get the message and relay it to the Emperor on his throne. So you can actually stand people in this area, and it's one of the first things I set out to replicate. And even if you didn't want to stand them and make it look like they were fully submerged in, you can sit someone in and it looks like they are working away. Now, I got the inspiration from this from one of the encyclopedias about Star Wars, where you can see that they are actually to be manned by an officer. And it's just a really cool detail that LEGO usually fill in, and I think even on the official diorama, they just filled in this space and didn't have it so you can access it. But now you can recreate nearly any scene, especially with Luke and Vader on the stairs, where Luke has the higher ground. Or perhaps the Emperor just wants some alone time and is looking out. And now that we've taken a nice look at the diorama, I'd like to shift the focus to the mechs. As we all know about the Vader, Stormtrooper and Boba mech that came out at the start of the month. However, if you've seen my custom modification for the Stormtrooper mech in the video where I compare this to buying the magazine, you'll know that I do like to customize them and have added arm joints to the mechs, which enables the arms to not only straighten but also keep that bent angle. Well, for these new custom mechs, I've taken it a step further, and rather than limiting it to the angle of the piece that was already there, I've enabled these arms to bend a full 90 degrees, just that extra bit of posability. And though there is a studs gap in the arm, these are mechs, so their arms aren't always going to be flat, and it looks really cool when it's bent, as you've got sort of this squared off rounded edge where the elbow would be. And the posability is well worth it for that studs gap. But let's get the minifigures in their mechs. One of the best parts about this mechs is not only that the capes fit, and like you might have seen in my Boba Mech review, when I added his little cape onto the minifigure, well, I think it was actually the Vader review that I did this. It didn't quite fit and sort of pushed it up, but now I've remodeled the mech so that the capes not only fit, but also don't crease, and you're not ruining the capes by putting the characters in these mechs. Also, for Luke's, of course, he has the lightsaber that we need to store, so I've stored it right next to him there, as I could have stored it on the back or out the way, but there wasn't really a spot that would be hidden at all angles. So I decided to have it on his hip piece. If you'd like to remove the green blade, it does look cool having his lightsaber hanging from his belt, and is probably a better scale with the mech than the minifigure. But first, we will be taking a look at the Emperor. So I've taken a few of the techniques from the Vader mech, especially with certain pieces they used on the arms and legs. These are taken directly from Vader, as I have pulled apart my Vader to make these. However, if you wanted to buy the pieces and custom make both of these mechs, I will eventually have the instructions on Rebrickable, and these will be awesome mechs to display alongside the Vader, and perhaps you can create an even bigger throne room diorama to sit these mechs. But the Emperor is a load of dark pieces, mostly blacks except for the lighter bluish grey on his hands, and I've used a darker bluish grey for his fingers, where they're getting burnt from all the electricity that's created with all these different trans blue elements. Now, I have in the middle used one of Spider-Man's web pieces. I think this is the Miles Morales piece in the trans blue, and this would have come in either the Miles Morales mech or one of the other playsets that he's in, and it just bridges the gap between the other electric elements, such as the two I've used on this side, and I've even used one of the fire pieces just to mix it up a bit and added a trans blue stud on the thumb to show a little spark of electricity. Now, as I've said, the arms do bend the full 90 degrees, so Palpatine can be sneakily zapping someone or even just zapping up in the air, like we see in The Rise of Skywalker when he creates that awesome storm to bring down the whole of the citizen fleet. And I have included a few details like the metal joint he has on his cape to keep it all together, and the hooded Palpatine finishes it off nicely, as it does give us that hood piece that I wasn't able to create as well with Lego bricks. But now we've had a nice look at Palpatine. The only thing I'd change about this Palpatine is these 1x2 slopes. I didn't have any in the black colour, so I had to go with dark bluish grey, but I think his shoes are awesome, and it looks like he's wearing some nice sleek black trainers with a dark bluish grey line across them. And we all know that Palpatine's definitely rocking the latest trainers underneath his robes, and it fits the character very well. Taking a look at Luke Skywalker, you can see the most notable thing here is probably the blaster piece that I have used for his saber, and it's one of them flick missiles that comes off of most of the Star Wars ships. I think the latest set you can get this in is Yoda's Starfighter, and they always come with a spare, so you wouldn't even need to purchase that part. I've gone a little away from the black colours and gone more with a dark bluish grey, as Luke isn't a villain, so I wanted to show the lighter elements of his character, and though he went down a dark path, I have included the light bluish grey triangle on his torso piece there to show that he is back to the light, as Lucas used in Return of the Jedi. And even the hands are different, where he's got one normal hand and the other, of course, on him is machine, whereas both of these are machine hands, as it's a mech. But this just goes to show his character that bit further. I've also tried to stay a bit minimalist on the pieces I use less, so that his mech is less bulky, as the Emperor has his robes, Vader, Boba and the Trooper have their armour, but Luke doesn't wear any armour. He doesn't need it for the most part. So I wanted to show this on the mech and think I've done a great job, especially with the boots, which I couldn't exactly continue up the leg, so I've just squared them out to show that they are more of a boot than a shoe or a trainer, compared to the shoes and smaller boots that the other minifigures use. And I'm very happy with this mech. Do let me know if you want to see more custom mechs, as I do have a few more of these torso pieces from the other Marvel mechs that we've got. And do let me know, I'll leave a community poll up with all the dioramas. Let me know your favourite one so far. And stay tuned for tomorrow's video where we'll be looking at all of my custom speeders finally. And as always, may the force be with you.